Hey Tom,
Hey, how you doing?
good. How you doing?
Good. This worked. See,
It worked.
I'm nervous about this.
I always get nervous about the live stuff, but then I realize like my friends do it all the time, and they're like, this is a process. They cut off, they stop, people rejoin. Nobody really minds.
Yeah, but I'm several decades older than Instagram Live. I mean, there's like you have to be this young to be on Instagram Live, and I tripped that crossed that line long ago. But it worked. Here we are.
I commend you for your bravery. Most people I feel like are like, oh, maybe on Zoom or something where
No,
yes,
we did this. We're here.
we're here. We're here. Awesome. Oh, and it's perfectly on time, so we can chat a bit. Um, Tom, so I wanted to give a little bit of background of you and why we're having this chat, and also a little bit of our story, because I think I came to Costa Rica some 12 years ago, and probably, I think 8 years ago or so, I met you through Stephen Brooks and Rolf. And I remember Rolf drove me up there once in crazy rain to Finca Luna Nueva to your retreat center, and you had just built this epic ecological home. Like for me, it was like the dream eco home, and seeing that and seeing what you built was so inspiring. The fact that Rolf couldn't see while driving was scary as hell.
He drove by the sense of smell. He
uh,
we Rolf will be forever in my heart.
there's two. One of the leaders here who helped. Yeah, it was kind of unique at that time, like coming to Costa Rica, looking to build community and retreat center, and meeting Rolf and meeting Stephen Brooks and meeting you. Felt like this comfortable environment of people pioneering new futures in different ways and live experiments. And when I got to Finca Luna Nueva, I felt it was a little different, and I was like, whoa, I didn't know that much about you when we first met, but when I saw the place, I was like, this is a biodynamic regenerative dream. And learned more about the purpose. I felt this wasn't a hotel or a classic retreat center. This was a live
Right.
project, and I learned about the Children's Eternal Rainforest after your huge conservation project, which for me, I was thinking about small permaculture gardens and impact. And then I was like, wow, people are buying up large swaths of rainforest to protect it. It blew my mind in terms of where you want to go in terms of success. I'm like, wow, if I could just contribute to that, that's epic. Yeah, so I wanted to discuss that a little bit, just to look at how that process was, what you guys are doing specifically, you and the team, what the cause is, because I think right now, in these times in the world, people are looking for a shift. They're starting to see this new paradigm emerging,
Mhm.
and it's good to learn from people who are doing it.
Well, it's my joy to be with you, Ed. I've enjoyed our friendship over the years and welcome this invitation from you to have an in-depth conversation.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
fire away.
Fire away. Before we go into all that stuff, I just want to say you gave me, I usually remember one piece of advice very well from people that are, for me, mentors, friends, and you told me, he who chases many rabbits shall catch none.
Right.
And I'm really grateful for that because over the years, learning to focus, Stephen Brooks calls it hone in on your legacy, but really focusing down now on what specific thing, even if it has a bigger vision, I can do today and take active role in creating this world. And I was also all scattered around a million ideas, so I appreciated that because as an entrepreneur and person trying to figure it out in this space, that helped me really hone it in.
Well, that was good advice given to me by one of my mentors, and I was happy to pay it forward. Um, the temptation to just chase every project and every opportunity and uh, every bauble, every sparkle. It's there because we've got energy and we see all these different opportunities, but it dissipates the attention. It dissipates the focus. And so for me, because I don't have infinite bandwidth, it was good for me to focus my limited bandwidth on specific challenges, and it helped me. It was almost like if I could put blinders on and stay tightly focused. And I still do that. I mean, even today, there's so many different causes that tug at the heart. And there are so many. But I wear carbon goggles. I see the world through a carbon lens. And there are those who see the world through a lens of racial justice and social justice, or economic disparity, or plastics in the ocean and all these causes are noble and good, and I give heart energy to them. But for me, I see the world through carbon goggles, because I've identified that as an existential challenge, and there are others, but this is an existential challenge to the survival of life on Earth as we know it, to the survival of beauty. And if I have identified a lever that can move that particular challenge, then that's my focus. And I think that we have identified that lever, which is regenerative agriculture. So I give love and support and energy, and I'm a cheerleader for all of those who, I mean, hey, I was the board chair of Greenpeace for many years, right? So I'm familiar with all the issues that plague us.
Yep.
But I've got this focus on agriculture right now in my life.
Yeah, and I remember you gave a talk at our retreat center at Vita, and I asked you one question, because this term regenerative agriculture to me became new a couple of years ago. Maybe it started to become more popular. Sustainability was out; it was now regenerative. And I asked you after, I think it was the COP, was it called COP17 in France? Was the conference of?
I think that may have been 21, but it's COP 21, but it was.
Yeah. So
in that
of all
zone.
these scientists and things, like what is the solution for carbon? And you said really the only place to put it is in the ground. You can't put it in the oceans. You can't put it in space. So regenerative agriculture, actually drawing carbon into the soil, and I guess converting that soil into much healthier soil and is that right? Digesting the carbon, or how does it work? Just, it's such a simple concept, but I still want to get it.
So let's scroll the clock back. Let's scroll it back 10,000 years, and add your people and my people were in the Middle East, and I know this because I did my National Geographic swab, and I tested, and my particular haploid group, which I'm guessing is your haploid group, we were a tribe in the Middle East, and we invented modern agriculture, turns out. So that's my karma that I have to work off this particular lifetime. And by the invention of modern agriculture, I'm of course talking about the Neolithic revolution, which anthropologists say was the biggest mistake that humans have ever made. So my forebears, my ancestors, are the architects of this grievous mistake, whereby we shifted from a hunter-gatherer with very casual agriculture to a more intensified agricultural approach. And maybe 8,000 to 10,000 years ago was the invention of irrigation, and 5,000 to 6,000 years ago the invention of the plow. But all of these were human interventions into the natural order, and humans delivering, to borrow from the German, an Achtung, an order, a demand. No more conversation, Mother Earth. You will do what we say you should do. You will produce food according to our needs, not the overall ecosystem's needs. And so around 10,000 years ago, the carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere were at about 250 or 60 parts per million. So not that many, not that much. The atmosphere had gone from earlier history on biological time frames in the Earth. Millions of years ago, the atmosphere may have been 5,000 or 6,000 parts per million of CO2. It was much hotter, and it was totally inhospitable for us, for humans, for mammals. We couldn't have survived. But through the evolution of plants, and plants took hold on terrestrial Earth about 470 million years ago. So this conversation now is going back 470 million years. You gave me some time, Ed. So
we're good. We got to
So
understand.
470 million years ago, it was ocean and rock.
Mm-hmm.
It was ocean and Pangaea, the supercontinent. And there were no plants on Pangaea. It was rock. But about 470 million years ago, one of those aquatic, those early marine, maybe single cell, maybe early multicellular plant forms washed up onto the rock.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't have an ability to gain nutrient from the rock. But 470 million years ago, a convergence of three of the domains of life occurred. You had plants washing onto the shore of Pangaea. You had bacteria, and you had arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi. And the three together, the bacteria were able to literally eat rock. They were able to solubilize the mineral salts because bacteria have that skill. And plants have the ability to breathe in and metabolize carbon dioxide, which bacteria don't have that ability. And fungi don't have that ability. And there were early fungi were present. And so you put those three together, and they realized that 1 + 1 + 1 was more than 3. It was actually an ecosystem that evolved into what we have today. And with the bacteria solubilizing the mineral salts like selenium, potassium, and manganese, and all the different micronutrients that we need, and that all living forms need, and with fungi able to create the delivery system, the network that could connect the solubilized minerals with the early plant roots. Wow. You had yourself the opportunity to do something magical, and that was to create soil. See, in the Old Testament, in the Bible, it says that in the beginning, God created, and we all think that in the beginning, the Garden of Eden, right? It was lush and it was rich, but no, in the beginning it was water and rock. There was no soil, zero soil.
Wow.
Soil is the creation of the photosynthetic ballet of plants eating sunlight, because that's what plants do. Plants, because of the chlorophyll, which was contained in the chloroplast, which, by the way, came from bacteria. So the chlorophyll was able to capture photons of solar energy, drinking in, eating the sunlight, and plants are solar panels, and they collect that solar energy, and then they're able to draw in water, which is H2O, right? and they're able to breathe in CO2. So now you have solar energy, CO2, and H2O. And with that solar energy, the plants were able to break apart the carbon dioxide and the water molecules. And now they've got carbon and oxygen and hydrogen molecules, and they were able to reconjugate, reassemble those atoms, and create C6H12O6.
What's that?
Sucrose.
Cool. Interesting. Oh, interesting.
Carbohydrate. Because plants, because carbohydrates, like we have to have carbs, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how we get energy. Well, where did that energy come from? The sun.
Yeah.
It's all solar energy. Carbohydrates are a human-friendly, edible form of solar energy. We can't eat the sun. Plants can. We can eat plants. And we can therefore eat the carbohydrates that plants create. But what's interesting is that bacteria also, they'll work for sugar. They'll work for carbohydrates. Everybody wants to get carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Everybody needs solar energy. So the bacteria go, I'd like some of that edible liquid carbon, that sugary sunlight, hama hama, as we'd say in Costa Rica. Give me some of that, right?
Yeah.
And the plants go, well, maybe, but what do I get for giving it to you? I'll give you solubilized potassium.
Mineral.
And solubilized all these minerals. I can eat rocks.
Yeah, give you minerals.
And give you minerals. And you plants can eat rocks, but you can eat the sun. And you can give me solar energy. And then the fungi are there going, hey, I can create a market.
Yeah.
I can create an underground commodities exchange.
Wow.
And so that's what that, and then here's what happens. Now it's a party. Now with the tips of every root of every plant, you've got billions upon billions of microorganisms. And the microorganisms are exchanging carbohydrates and minerals, and they're growing and they're multiplying and they're pooping and they're excreting and they're dying, and they're creating what some plant scientists say very scientifically are glues and gums. It gets sticky down there with all those billions and endless, countless infinities of microorganisms living and pooping and dying and consuming. Everybody's eating everybody else.
Yeah.
And you get these glues and gums, and they're sticky. And then from those glues and gums, the soil, the mineral particles can start to form what are called microaggregates.
Okay.
And it's these microaggregates of organic matter in combination with the minerals in the environment. That's the stuff of soil. That's how soil is created. So there was a scientific paper published last year. And it's interesting. This is a story old as time. It's a story that's at least 470 million years of age. It's the story that supports all of life on Earth as we know it. And it's a story that we really don't know all that well. It's a story that we're just now beginning to discover how it all works. So just last year, couple of papers were published, and in one paper, it was revealed that the majority of the soil organic matter that is humus, that is topsoil, that is the stuff on which all farming and all food production is based, the majority of that is, you'll love this word, necromass.
Well, yeah.
It's just the glues and gums of dead microorganisms.
Wow. Huh.
So from that life came death, came life, and it's this incredible philosophic, religious, it's a renaissance, resurrection, recreation, regeneration of life and death, and life and death, and life creates death, and death creates life. And it's this perfect, beautiful balance. And science now says, hey, the soil doesn't come from the rotting of organic matter on the surface. That's what most people think.
Sure.
A little bit comes from that. The majority of soil comes from necromass. The glue and the gum created in that playful life and death of microorganisms, all fed by energy. And covered last year that it was not enough to have the necromass, because what was the necromass is hydrate. It's carbon rich. It's energy rich. So it's like everybody wants that. Composing microorganisms, it's like cotton candy. It's like sugar. It's a Snickers bar down there. Eaten immediately, and it will not build up. So how does it build up? How does soil become stable? How does organic matter build up? Plains become great, right? It turns out that you need to have lots of in the soil where the organic matter can migrate and basically hide away and not get eaten by those microorganisms. And those pores that are safe harbor, they're between like 30 and I think that's 30 and 50 microns in dimension. Different root filaments. So the more different types of roots at different depths of create the soil pores, that's where you're able to build up organic matter over time. So here's what and are we connected still? I just want to make sure that we're connected. Good.
Yeah, it started giving me this little circle thing, which the video is loading a little slow, so I heard you a little bit. Yeah, here we go. I think we needed to give it a second. It shows a little bit of a bad connection. Let's see. Let's see. How about now?
Are you there?
Yeah, it's doing the little. Yeah, I'm here. It's showing on your end a little bit of bad connection. It's given the circle.
Yeah, I see that, and I've been worrying that we're not all these good
give it 1 sec. It shows here. I know, and this was the good part. I'm like, we're getting to soil creation. Hold on, let's see. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything on your end, maybe internet-wise we could do, but if not, we will just wait till that green circle disappears.
Side.
Yeah, oh, there you go. You're back. It's stabilized. Maybe it was a solar flare.
It could be. We're all eating the sun, right? So how much do we miss, do you think?
No, it's just really the last 30 seconds, 45 seconds got choppy. And when you were talking about basically the sticky stuff and creating soil, and you got to the pores, and and then at the pores we kind of lost.
So, but this is really important because now we understand how to build soil. And we always had a basic idea, but now science is enriching our intuition and enriching our experience. What science is telling us is if you want to build soil, you need to collect as much solar energy as you can.
Okay.
Which means you need to have the ground covered with things that are green, which means you should not have bare earth.
Mm-hmm.
If you see farms that have bare earth, they are literally rejecting the bounty of the solar system. They're rejecting solar energy. They're not optimizing the ability to create carbohydrate. So we know that. So now what you have to have is you need to have cover, ideally permanent cover crops. You don't want anything bare earth.
Okay.
Okay. Number two, you want to capture as much of the solar energy as you possibly can, which means that you want to have leaves that look like this, and leaves that look like this, and leaves that are at this height, and leaves that are here. And look at a forest.
Yeah.
Look at all the different strata in a forest, and all the different leaf shapes and leaf sizes and tree configurations. Look at a prairie, all the different strata. Even though it may only go up in a tall grass prairie, it may only go up a few meters, but there are so many layers. There might be in a square meter of prairie, there might be 100 or more different plants growing at different heights with different leaf structures. And what are those leaf structures? They're solar panels.
Yeah. Yeah.
So science is telling us you always want to cover the soil, and you want plant diversity, because with plant diversity, you get different size and shapes of solar panels, and you get different root structures, and the roots will create different soil pores, and the soil pores create a safe harbor, a habitat for the necromass that has been joined up with the mineral particles, the sand and the mineral salts, and creating the little tiny bundles, the tiny environments of organic matter. So this is what we thought. This is what permaculture would teach us. We should grow our food. If we're in Costa Rica, we should grow our food like a forest. If we're in the Great Plains of the United States, we should grow our food like a prairie. Permaculture tells us to look at the natural history of our environment and to grow our food in accordance with those laws of nature. Like it doesn't make any sense in a rainforest, like unfortunately you're seeing all around the world, to cut down the rainforest and imitate a prairie, because the ecosystem wants to be a forest. It doesn't want to be a prairie. Everything is set up to support a rainforest. So grow food like a rainforest. And what does that look like? It looks like agroforestry, agroecology. So the permaculture of the humid tropics, like at our farm, Finca Luna Nueva, the permaculture design there would say, look at your neighbor, the Children's Eternal Rainforest, and look how that rainforest produces calories of energy, and then emulate that. But if you're up in Kansas or Nebraska or Oklahoma, let's grow food there in accordance with those laws of nature, because then you've got the full power of the natural ecosystem supporting you. So rather than fighting against the ecosystem, permaculture design encourages us to lean into, to embrace the laws of nature of our ecosystem. But always what we do, and it's whether you call it biomimicry or permaculture or agroforestry or regenerative agriculture, in every case, what we're attempting to do is grow our food in a way that is comfortable and natural for the ecosystem in which we are residing.
That's a good
And so, and so what that tells you is you never want to see bare earth, because go out in the forest near Finca Luna Nueva. There's no bare earth.
Right.
There's no monoculture. There's no uniform row of plants with bare earth. You don't see you don't see corn or cassava, yucca.
Yeah.
You don't see that planted in rows in a rainforest. It's
Yeah,
just
so,
not the way the ecosystem produces. And the way the ecosystem produces is with biological diversity, which captures the most solar power, which produces the most liquid carbon, or that sweet sunshine of carbohydrate, which produces more of that liquid carbon to share with bacteria and to have transmitted and share with fungi, and then to have the party in the soil going on with people partying and then and pooping and then dying and then being recycled and regenerated and resurrected, and that's what you need. So that's what regenerative agriculture means broadly, and and in our ecosystem in Costa Rica, that's what it looks like. So early on, Ed, if you had come to Luna Nueva 25 years ago, we were organic. And we soon thereafter, we were Demeter certified biodynamic. So we were congratulating ourselves, like, aren't we great? We're organic, and we're biodynamic. But we weren't building soil.
Because there was no,
and we had monoculture, ginger, turmeric, monoculture. We had 4 or 5 year planting cycles. So things did, after we harvested, we then we planted beans, and then it went through
I remember
succession.
seeing that. You showed me that. Yeah, that's very
right.
cool.
It went to what's called tacotal. It goes through it goes into brush, and then it starts to look like a young forest, and that happens quickly. But we plowed every 5 years. To prepare to what we thought was an ideal preparation of the soil for planting. But it turns out that even plowing every 5 years was enough to damage the stability and the integrity of the soil, of the organic matter that we had created during that fallow period. So we, in our hubris, thought that we were the bee's knees because we were organic and biodynamic. No, organic and biodynamic are regulatory regimes. They are not formulas for the creation of soil.
That's interesting.
Now, we are still organic. And we still use biodynamic practices. And I am a zealot for organic agriculture. So we don't in any way dismiss the importance of organic, because we don't want to be eating, and we don't want to be eating poisons or poisoning the earth. But if your focus is on carbon, remember I told you early that I have carbon goggles on. I'm looking at what will regenerate the ecosystem, what will build soil. And what builds soil is growing food the way a rainforest grows food. Or if you're in the using polyculture. Now, within a polyculture system, you can have alley crops that are annual. So you can do that. You can integrate annual into a perennial system. But you need to have respect for where you're living. You can't go to the rainforest and say, from now on, you're gonna be a prairie. And not only that, I'm gonna not only have you be a prairie, but I'm gonna plow you, and I'm gonna put synthetic fertility in the soil, and I'm gonna use pesticides, And it's that octung I talked about. It's that mistake we made 10,000 years ago that our people made 10,000 years ago, right? That Neolithic revolution that we're still paying the price for. And so carbon in the atmosphere 10,000 years ago, 260 parts per million. Before the Industrial Revolution, 270, 275 parts per million. And you know what? If Goldilocks were in the story, she would say, that's just right. That was just right. That was a comfortable, the porridge was just the right temperature. Sure. Not too cold, not too hot. We could eat it. It was comfortable. But now you start ripping apart the soil with modern, destructive, industrial agriculture, with plowing that's deep and continuous and intensive. That's just a knife blade going through Mother Earth. And then you start to poison it by putting in synthetic fertility that it's like steroids. It's speeding up the decomposition process, and you go from 260 to 280 to when I was born in 1952, we were at about, where were we? We were at about 325 parts per million. Okay. And then when I was graduated from high school, we were at about 330 parts per million. And then I start my adult life. Yeah. And I'm a teacher of meditation, and I'm part of the 60s revolution, and it's peace on earth, and it's great. But we took our eyes off carbon. Eyes off the prize, We took our eyes off that prize. Wow. That's what kept our ecosystem in that Goldilocks, just right, perfectly comfortable space. Yeah. And as you go through my adult life, and so this all happened on my watch. Sure. So my cohort, the boomers, were responsible for this. We went from 330 parts per million to now we're at 416 parts per million. And according to a scientific report that was published last week, by the year 2060, we will be at about 550 or 60 parts per million. Which I think you told me once, that's already where, like when we get above a certain amount, that's where certain systems fail, yeah? We're already there. Oh, we're already, okay. We're already there. I mean, there are, given my years with Greenpeace, I got to rub shoulders with some of the great activists and planetary scientists, and even James Lovelock, the co-creator of the Gaia hypothesis, said it's over. Yeah, we've already triggered the feedback loops that we can't crawl back from, and I reject that. Yeah, you told me something. I absolutely reject that. You also told me something that was very unscientific and more spiritual, which I loved, because we were talking about this at Vita during one of our early retreats. You gave a talk and Stephen gave a talk. And I saw some faces when you were saying that, like, oh shit, we're screwed, like we're in a tough place. But you also said that the earth has this unique ability to heal itself that science also doesn't fully understand. We might think, it has some ways, because it did seem like, okay, well, if we're past the point, what do we do now? You also said that, look, this thing that we've been discussing, creating soil, is probably the single, I guess, conclusion that most intelligent people around the world in this space have come to. If you want to fix this, or you want to attempt to fix this or make it better, we have to put it into the soil. There is no plan B. The only plan that works for this planet is to use the time-tested power of photosynthesis, which, by the way, was able to take 5,000 to 6,000 parts per million of CO2 down to 260 parts per million. I mean, this is something that Mother Earth and her homeostatic, loving kindness and genius has been able to do before. This is, yeah. I'm not suggesting that we need to test something that hasn't already been time tested in the most brilliant long-term clinical trial imaginable, which is right. All life on the planet. So we know that it works.
Yeah.
Because we went from 6,000 to 260. Now we had a few 100 million years to do that,
mm-hmm.
right? But so now what we're talking about is, can we get from 416 parts per million
back down?
Can we stop it from going up to 560? Number one, because it just gets worse with every new part per million in the atmosphere.
Right.
But can we actually turn back the carbon clock? Can we actually draw carbon down, sequestration? Yeah. Can we optimize food production by embracing regenerative agriculture on a broad enough footprint on the planet so that we have, not like at Luna Nueva, we've got 100 hectares. Okay?
Well, you also have Children's Eternal Rainforest, right?
Sure, yeah. But I'm talking farming.
Right.
We've got 100 hectares that we manage, but there are billions of hectares,
mm-hmm.
right? There are 3.5 billion hectares of grassland.
Wow.
There are 1.5 billion hectares of farmland on the planet. Yeah. So what if that we could use regenerative agriculture, which is as old as time and has been proven, and we know it works. What if we start to grow food like a forest? Which by the way, many of the indigenous ancestors around the world, the fathers and mothers of indigenous wisdom, they did this.
Yeah.
They grew food agroecologically. So this is, again, we need to remember, we need to stop forgetting how humans lived for 190,000 years of our existence. It's just this last 10,000 that we've been mucking up.
By the way, I have to correct that then. It's not from an old paradigm to a new paradigm. It's from an old to a new to an even older paradigm.
Exactly.
But by the way, I feel like sometimes there's two groups of people that it's quite interesting when you talk about this. One is the individual, who I have friends from all over the US and in Costa Rica also wanting to be a part of it, from owning a small piece of land, living in an eco-village, building eco-villages. There's Stephen joined,
Hey, Stephen.
Hey, Stephen. So you see people actually now saying, look, I can build an eco-village, I can build a retreat, an organic farm, or now they're learning, wow, I could be part of permaculture, regenerative agriculture systems. So there is individual action, whether you're part of it, building it. There's also a lot of investors today, and I meet really wealthy people, it's crazy, that are like, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do to better this whole thing? And I really love what you said about these large-scale agroforestry was the word, or
well, again, you hear so many different terms used,
sure.
But agroforestry, agroecology, again, but and Mr. Brooks can chime in, but we're talking basic permaculture design here,
right?
To design our food production in a way that is harmonious with the laws of nature of that ecosystem.
Yeah.
And that will look and feel different in every ecosystem, and with every food and with every soil type. But but if you have your carbon goggles on,
yes,
and if you remember the principles being always looking for polyculture, always looking to have every square inch of the soil covered with living green, solar panels collecting, harvesting solar energy, not disturbing the soil unnecessarily, minimal soil disruption so that the organic matter can stay in a stable, recalcitrant form, and not dumping into the soil synthetic compounds that would distort the soil microbiology and lead to a decomposition of the organic matter. And those are the basic principles. And if you're organic too, wonderful. And if you're biodynamic too, that's great.
Yeah.
But those are not necessary preconditions to joining the regenerative revolution.
Awesome. I like that.
Regenerative agriculture it needs to be a broad welcome. The welcome mat should be extended to all farmers everywhere. And we don't want to impose on the 2 billion smallholder farmers in the world a requirement to follow the regulatory regime of wealthy first world legal systems. Like many people in the world don't care about the National Organic Program of the United States. So we should make them adhere to those requirements first. We should instead applaud every step in the direction of regeneration, and it will inevitably lead to farmers and ranchers being organic. Yeah, because the more health in the soil, the less you need to buy those costly inputs. So I look at regenerative agriculture as a bridge to an ideal form of agriculture, which is using no synthetic inputs. But we don't want to reverse that and tell people, well, you have to be certified organic and or certified X. No. Don't confuse this. This is a simple issue. Yeah. We want to support growing food in accordance with the laws of your ecosystem. And by doing that, you'll build soil. And by doing that, you will increase fertility. You will improve water management. You will improve your yields. You will be more resilient in the face of climate extreme. And you won't want to pay chemical companies for those inputs. What we in the regenerative space say, Ed, is that we want to sign the back of the check. We don't want to sign the front of the check. We want checks coming to us that we endorse and deposit. We don't want to sign checks and give it to the Monsantos and Bayers of the world. Yeah. That's yesterday's paradigm. And that's a dead paradigm.
We're in a time where I think I know it's not an easy time that we're going through societally, but it's the most I've never felt as hopeful in a time that people are starting to see a shift possible, and such a mass group of people seeing that we need systematic change, and you paving the way for a lot of that since Greenpeace to now. Just the examples are what's important to me. I feel like seeing what we can actually do from individual to people on a larger level who can have big impact,
So
it paused you for a second. There you are.
After I left the corporate world, as I'm a refugee from the entrepreneurial world, but after I left that, I started an NGO called the Carbon Underground. Yeah. And the Carbon Underground is a not-for-profit that is dedicated to working with governments and with corporations to, on the governmental level, shift their agricultural policies in the direction of regenerative, and with corporations to shift their supply chain management in the direction of regenerative. Because again, we have 416 parts per million. And I've done the math so many times. Let me just tell all the people tuning in, that means we have 1 trillion tons of excess CO2 in the atmosphere. And that's a lot, but we've got 5 billion hectares
5 billion
of 5 billion hectares to work with. And so if we can sequester 3 tons of carbon per hectare per year, which by the way, That's easy.
That's doable.
If we can, that, I mean, there have been numerous peer-reviewed papers demonstrating in multiple different food production systems, 3 tons, 8 tons.
Wow, per hectare.
Per hectare per year.
That means an individual who has a couple hectares, Costa Rica to wherever, US, they can actually be part of the bigger system of change.
What it means is if you have a home anywhere where you have a yard.
Right on, yeah.
The number one agricultural system in the United States is lawn grass.
Yeah.
It's where more chemicals go than any other agricultural system.
Wow.
Lawn grass, the roots are really shallow, and it's monoculture.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not optimizing the collection of solar power. You're not optimizing the production of carbohydrate. You're not optimizing the feeding of microorganisms in the soil food web. You're not producing soil. So if you want to participate just from your home or from your community garden or from whatever cooperative garden that you're working with, your CSA, then adopt regenerative principles. And that means polyculture with permanent ground cover, not disturbing the soil to the absolute barest extent, disturb the soil, and minimizing the input of synthetic fertility. And if you adopt those principles of regenerative agriculture, here's what you're going to find. You're going to find the following 4 things will happen every year. Number 1, there will be more soil organic matter, which is the repository of carbon, which came from CO2, which was converted by plants into carbohydrates, which then fed the soil food web, which then creates the necromass, which then gets stored, right?
Yes.
So you will find every year more soil organic matter in your soil than the year before. You will find that the soil has a better structure or stability. It holds its integrity better in the face of whatever threats there might be to the soil. For example, intense weather, whether it be drought or monsoon rain. You will have better water permeation. You will have better water retention, because guess what? Soil organic matter, it's a sponge. That's the soil water battery.
Wow.
So when you rebuild the soil, organic matter, you are building the sponge that soaks up water. So let's suppose, like in Costa Rica, you can get inches and inches of rain. Forget in a day, sometimes in just a few hours. Right?
Feeling that.
But when you go into a rainforest after an intense rainstorm, you don't see erosion. You don't see puddles of standing water. The soil just soaks it up. Because that's the organic matter in the soil. It's there. It's designed to take in and to use every precious drop of that rain. Alan Savory and the Savory Organization refers to that as making rainfall effective.
Awesome.
Utilizing the rain. So rain's not our enemy. We don't worry about heavy rains because they're going to wash away our soil. Instead,
bring it in.
Bring it on.
By the way, Tom, because they're going to cut us off, I think, in 2-3 minutes, because I know it's a 1 hour. Yeah, they limited it 1 hour. I know. I have some words for the Instagram people. We'll have to do another one soon on longer.
All right. Well, let me just tell you the fourth thing. The fourth thing you'll see is there will be measurable increases in both below and above ground biodiversity, because life creates life.
Yeah.
It is the life force in the soil. It is the soil food web which creates healthy soil, which then creates more life force, which creates both below and above ground diversity. So in a healthy ecosystem, and this has been shown all around the world in peer-reviewed science, if you adopt regenerative agriculture, you will increase not only the microbial life, but also the earthworms,
Yeah.
and the birds, and you, Rachel Carson cautioned us that our agricultural practices were leading to a silent spring because we were killing off the ecosystem that was supporting birdsong. Regenerative agriculture will bring back that symphony of life. So
Yeah.
for all of you out there that want to have a livable future where it's that Goldilocks just right level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere so that we don't burn to a crisp and we can still have abundant life in the oceans and food for our future. And if you want beauty, and if you want birdsong, and if you want to celebrate, I got a solution for you. It's called regenerative agriculture. And we welcome you to the regenerative agriculture revolution.
Thanks, man. I'm so in, and I'm so grateful that you brought it from the lawn to the big scale. I'm so part of it. My heart is for this because I'm like, this is what we got to do now. I'm gonna focus my one rabbit on a rabbit that's going in this direction.
Carbon goggles.
Carbon goggles. And guys, just so you know, for those listening, one, Finca Luna Nueva is one of the most incredible retreat and education centers I've seen in Costa Rica, and I do a lot of retreats every year, so I know this stuff. So go visit their website when things reopen more. Come visit Finca Luna Nueva. Also, Children's Eternal Rainforest is unbelievable. You guys have saved so much rainforest from, let's say further degradation. And on some of our events, people have actually started giving a few shekels. So as that accumulates, we're going to send it over. And it's a cause that I really love supporting because you're doing it and people can do it. It's really hard to do it on your own sometimes beyond the lawn. But when I saw what a big system you're managing there, I'm like, man, I want to support that. Like, you're doing it right. Yeah, and Sacred Seeds and all your other initiatives. I'll put all the links in the interview post so people could follow, contribute, be a part of, and yeah, I'm really grateful.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Ed. Thank you for the opportunity to share my passion with you and with our friends today. And I wake up hopeful every single morning. There's spring in my step. I may have gray hair, but I've got golden hopes, and so we're gonna do this. We just got to get going.
Yeah, and we're not alone. Seeing people like Stephen Brooks and my buddy Nick Valencia, who's big into creating this kind of future here. I think people are ready and they want to feel that sense of camaraderie that we got this. We're gonna do it.
Very good. Pura vida.
Pura vida, my friend. Thank you. Send love to Terry for me too.
And my love to all the people who are on this mission with us. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Peace.
Cheers. Peace. Thank you.